Hello everyone, it is Lucy and today I want you to come thrift with me in Tasmania. Now I'm not gonna lie, I did actually already go to Tasmania. It was a little bit of a last minute kind of trip. My boyfriend Max and I had been kind of looking for an opportunity to go to Tasmania for like the last year or so, but it just hadn't like worked out with timing, and the timing just happened to work out for last week. But I didn't actually plan to have like any content out of this trip, but I did end up going thrifting in Tasmania, visiting a bunch of different charity shops, thrift shops, secondhand shops, consignment stores, and I filmed it. But I figured it could be fun and maybe something different to take a little trip down memory lane to literally last week, and you could come thrifting with me in Tassie, or Tasmania. Also, as a side note, I did like vlog the trip and I tried to do it with the framework in the like what I wore in a day, but I wasn't really as consistent and as polished with that like framing device as I would like. So I'm not sure if I should upload that as like one video being like what I wore in Tasmania, but it's sort of more of a vloggy kind of thing, or I can make smaller vlogs on my second channel. Let me know what you prefer if you have any preference. I'm thinking I might put it on the second channel because then I can just make them like super chaotic because that's kind of what they were. And I can keep this really, you know, professional vibe on my channel, the main channel. Please share your thoughts. I would like to marinate and munch crunch on them. All right, so let's just jump straight into it. So first off, we started in Tasmania. We flew into Hobart and then we kind of road tripped up to Launceston. I said Launceston the entirety of the time I was there, but I'm pretty sure it's Launceston. Like it's not pronounced how you read it. It's like Launceston. Regardless, we did not really get any opportunity to do any thrifting in Launceston. They just didn't seem to be open. So unfortunately, I cannot really report on the thrifting / secondhand scene in Launceston, but there did seem to be some cool shops. I don't know, they weren't open. Then we road tripped from Launceston to Bicheno. So we're kind of doing like a little, like a D shape across Tasmania. Now I was feeling hopeful about some like regional kind of country town thrifting because I've found in my experience, it can really go either way. You can find some really unique finds that like only, you know what I mean, like a grandma in a country town would have, stuff from like regional Australia vintage kind of vibes, which can be so cool. But you can also find a lot of just like kind of meh stuff, and I would say that Scottsdale was kind of a mix of the two. Although I will say Scottsdale did have an incredibly slay sausage roll place. I had a really great sausage roll and I think it was only like $2 something. It was very affordable and very delicious. The cost of living crisis does not seem to have reached sausage rolls in Scottsdale, Tasmania. That was very good. So first up, I just walked past the salvos and had a little peek in. What they had in the store definitely seemed to reflect the community, which definitely seemed to be more retiree, kind of elderly. So both the styles and the sizing of the majority of the clothing wasn't really for me, but they did have some really cool kitchen and dining wear that I thought was quite slay, and some incredibly cursed knickknacks. I actually really kind of regret not getting one of these because they were just all just so like, what, why? They were just the particular kind of curse that I really treasure, particularly like that little pastel clown. I'm not really a big knick-knack gal. I'm not really even really a big like just random stuff gal. I like things that have utility. Like I'm cool with makeup, skincare, clothes, because like I use all of those things, but you won't see a lot of just like decorations in my apartment. But I do make the rare exception, and I feel like that clown, that little clown may have been in that exception category. And I do slightly regret not picking up that clown. Sorry to that clown. Maybe I'm the real clown. Then I headed like literally just across the road to their vinnies. This one did seem to have a real variety in both like fashion and furniture. It was a little bit bigger, so they had a little bit more stuff. It was a real jumble of just random stuff. It was very classic charity shop energy. It was a very similar vibe with the mix of clothes at this one as it was at the salvos, but I did really like that they had some very funky little party dresses. They had just a variety of cute different styles. I thought that was cool. So I liked that. In my opinion, the best thing in this vinnies was the store pet Vincent, which is just a plush sheep, which is not for sale. And I respect that. I would not sell it either. It's very cute. So then we frolicked around country Tasmania some more, and then we eventually headed to Hobart, which is where Max and I stayed for a couple of nights. And that is where we get into the real meat of this come thrift with me video. We actually visited all of these places on the National Day of Mourning, rip to Lizzie. We weren't really expecting anything to be open on this day. We just figured everything would be closed, but it was all open. So we were very happy for that. And we spent most of the National Day of Mourning looking at vintage vests and sweaters and whatnot. So I'm sure that's what she would have wanted. Do I really care what she wanted? Not really. Part of me wants to get into my hot takes around that, but I think Lena Norms's video about it is also very good and pretty much describes my vibe. So go watch that if you haven't. So the first place we visited was quite random. We had a couple places. My brother had been to Tasmania kind of recently and he told me some places he'd been to that he recommended, but we just had breakfast, and next to where we're having breakfast was this place. And I have since tried to find out what it's called, and I'm not totally sure, but I think it's just part of the sheepskin and opal world, which sell like Ugg boots and like other Australian related souvenirs. I don't know, I can't actually find what this store is called, but it was pretty slay, I'm not gonna lie. We did actually walk past this store the night before and they had this like cosplay stuff in the window, so I thought it was like a weeb / pop culture, like anime kind of store. So when we eventually went in, we were really surprised to find that it was kind of like a mix of like J fashion, thrifted clothing, and then like a couple of sprinkles of cosplay kind of stuff. It was kind of deceptive because it looked really like a small selection from the outside, but they had this kind of whole room there which all had like a mix of different thrifted stuff, and then they had like racks along the walls that you couldn't see, and then they had like another like mini room with like a dressing room that also had stuff. So there's quite a lot to look through. And unlike a lot of thrift stores, they did actually have like a little dedicated section for some J fashion, which included some Liz Lisa. There were also some Gatto brands and Lolita stuff that I was like familiar from when I was like all super into that. And then they had kind of just a general mix of fast fashion, unbranded stuff, which made me think it was probably like AliExpress, kind of Taobao, stuff like that. And they also had a selection of clothes from Dangerfield and their sub-brands, which is sort of a popular vintagey, retro aesthetic / alternative store in Australia. They also had some racks that seemed to be for the more like upscale brands, like vintage kind of Ralph Lauren and just more designery stuff. And that was where Max found this t-shirt, which I only saw the front at first and I was like, that looks familiar to me. And I couldn't really pick where, but then Max spun it around and it had the Loewe branding on the back. So it's from the Loewe Disney collection from like a couple of years ago. Max and I were not sure if it was authentic, but we looked at the tags inside and then we also looked up old listings on things like, I don't know, Vestiaire Collective, Depop, Poshmark, whatever, to see if anyone else had listed their authentic Loewe t-shirt to see if it matched. And like the tags and everything all matched, like exactly. It did look exactly like the real one, but they were also only charging $15 for it, and this is like a at least $100 to $200 t-shirt. In my opinion, I think that it was a replica. Number one, because they had other designer and like, you know, more expensive brand name stuff and they were charging more for that. It was also still really decently priced, but like you could tell they knew the value of things, or at least I felt that way. But there was also a lot of like AliExpress / Taobao / like dupey kind of stuff there as well, like unbranded stuff that was kind of meant to be looking like a brand. So I'm pretty sure it's a rep, but it does look identical. I mean, like it's a t-shirt, so I don't know. Happy for your input on this one. I just thought it was really interesting because it's pretty rare to encounter like replicas like that in the wild thrift shopping, or at least in my experience. I've definitely seen things that are like branded as a brand name but like are clearly not, or like really obvious fakes, or like actual vintage designer. And this was the first time I'd seen something that's like a newer item that's a rep. You know what I mean? I also tried on this cheap Monday denim jacket. It's like a Swedish denim brand, I think. It's a nice piece and it was in pretty good condition, but it didn't really suit me. It's not really my style, so I did not end up getting it. I considered trying on the Loewe t-shirt, but that peachy color is just like really not for me. Like I just do not look good in that peachy color, but Max tried it on and I thought it looked really cute on him. And it was kind of a real vibe. He thought it was like too small and like slim fitted, but I thought he looked cute and we decided that we would get it. And we both were just kind of like, it's a vibe. It's probably not real, but it's cute anyway. If it is real, that's kind of slay. If it's not, it's a cute $15 t-shirt. Anyway, we continued to look around and we saw a couple of other very weird and interesting pieces, but then we decided to head on to the next destination, which was Red Cross Hobart. I'm gonna be real, I don't actually have a lot to say about this one. It was just kind of a classic charity shop. It reminded me a lot of the ones here at home in Brisbane. There were definitely a couple of good finds for someone else, but nothing particularly spectacular, although I did find this very ugly rainbow dress and these Mimi t-shirts. So the next place we headed to was Bruce Consignment. So I didn't know anything about this place. Again, it was just kind of like us looking at, you know, vintage shops, secondhand shops in the area. It was right down the road. Thought we'd check it out. This was probably my favorite one of the trip. It was definitely a little bit pricier and bougier because it was a consignment store, but I'm an equal opportunist bargain hunter. I don't mind if I find a really good bargain at like a charity store for like $2 versus also finding like a good deal that's like $100 for something that's worth like $400. I want to see my options. Okay, I'm happy to pay a little bit more if I'm getting good value. Bruce actually has a sister store in Melbourne. I think that's like their main one. So next time I go to Melbourne, I will definitely check that out because the selection at the Hobart store was spectacular. When I walked in, I was literally just like, they had such a nice mix of brands. They had an incredible cashmere selection, lots of different really nice cashmere pieces in different colors of the rainbow. They had some more niche kind of like indie / boutique designers, some more popular brands from like America and Australia. And they had these really gorgeous cocktail dresses and like event dresses. And you know, that is exactly the kind of category where pre-loved I feel like really shines because a lot of people don't wear their occasion wear, you know, more than once or a couple of times, which is not great. Yeah, I was very tempted by their occasion wear selection, but I don't have anything that I need one for. They also had some very cute shoes from designer brands like Miu Miu, but they were sadly not in my size. Big rip. So I actually tried on quite a few pieces here because I just found quite a few things that I had liked or seen online or had been wanting to try. So I tried them on. First off, I tried on this Reese knit that was, you know, nice materials. I think it was cashmere or wool blend, something like that, but it was a little bit lackluster. Wasn't really doing anything for me. Then I tried on this Alice and Olivia sweater, which I just thought was so cute. It was a little bit too small for me and the kind of creamy, yellowy, peachy color was just not really doing me any favors, but it was still so cute and I hope someone else picks it up because it's just a really lovely piece. I also tried on this Scanlan and Theodore, which is an Australian brand, this cardigan, which I really love the material and the feel and the color of. I loved it on the hanger, and then when I tried it on, it just didn't look quite right. And actually the store attendant said that she had a similar experience as well, like she was gonna get it for herself. It was sort of like too big and too small, but then neither at the same time. And then I tried on this Garni dress, which I really love the shape and the cut of. Like I felt that was really flattering, but the colors weren't really doing me any favors. I felt they were a little too dark, a little too dreary. I actually know some people were saying from my personal color video, which if you haven't seen that yet, one of my favorite videos I've made, do check it out. I saw some people feeling like I could be a winter, and I feel like this is kind of your proof that I'm not, because these are very like wintry colors and I just don't feel like I look good in them at all. I'd have to wear like a lot of makeup to kind of make my features contrasty enough to like make that fit look good. However, now that I have tried on that Garni silhouette in that size, I feel more confident in potentially looking at getting some other dresses from Garni that I've very much liked the looks of in like similar shapes but like different colorways. I also tried on this raincoat jacket kind of thing that I kind of regret not getting because I think it was really cute. I really liked how it like looked on, but it is also like a very functional raincoat / jacket, and it doesn't really rain here enough for me to warrant having like a dedicated rain jacket. And my boyfriend actually has a raincoat from Rains, like the same brand, and he was saying to me like he barely even wears his raincoat, and when he does, it's really hot here where I live. It's not like cold and rainy, it's usually like humid and hot and rainy, and so raincoats are just very hot and like uncomfortable to wear generally. I left it there for a person who would actually like get the full utility out of it, even though I did think it was cute. So as you can see, there was a bunch of stuff that I was quite interested in, but I didn't end up getting. They just weren't quite right for me, but it was great because I like trying on pieces from brands that I might not have tried before, just so I can kind of like get to know how they like fit and sit on me, because some brands end up being like really good for like my body type and like my shape and stuff like that, so it's always good to know. There's a bunch of other stuff there that I was super into as well, but it was just a little bit on the spenny side. Like, it's a consignment store, it's secondhand, but it's still like a designer consignment store, so some of the deals were maybe not as good as you could find online, but I do think there is something to be said for like actually trying stuff on. It was a really beautiful store and it was a really nice shopping experience, so I highly recommend Bruce to anyone going to Hobart. It was very nice. Then we headed to a store called Goodbyes, which is one of the ones that my brother recommended to me. I'm not gonna lie, there was not a lot really there that was super my style. I only really had a sort of brief look around, but didn't really have anything really catching my eye. There was quite a lot there. It was definitely more contemporary as opposed to vintage. There were quite a few like Aussie designer pieces and some kind of like funky brands. Like there was this dress from Rouge there that I thought looked really nice. Again, the kind of thing where I'm like, I know this isn't really my vibe, it's not gonna look good on me, but like it's a cool piece and I hope someone gets it. And it was like a nicely set up store and everything like that, but yeah, I did not really spend much time here. And the last thrift store that is on my list to talk to you about, and the last one that I visited, was the Finders. When we were there, they actually had a sale on, so everything kind of in the middle of the room on the rack was $10, but a lot of those pieces were like fast fashion, or they were like stained or damaged, so I didn't really find anything on that rack that was like really speaking to me. But all the stuff like kind of on the perimeter of the store was very, very cool, and I think it was separated into kind of like different like mini stores within the store. I don't know if that really makes sense, but it looks like it's one big store, and it is, but I think it's like, yeah, multiple different people have stock in the store, and it's like mini stores slash brands. I don't know. But my favorite section or like curation area was honey jumbles. They had so many cute like vintage pieces, a lot of pastels, a lot of colors, but there were also some really cool unique pieces in the honey jumble section that were like reworked vintage, or like pieces made from vintage fabrics and stuff, like some original one-offs, which I always like to see. I feel like they're really cool. In particular, there was this really awesome kind of like pajama jacket coat thing. I don't really know how to describe it, but it was basically made of like quilt fabric. So it was kind of like a dressing gown trench. I don't know. It was very, very cool. I did try it on. I thought it was adorable. It's not really something I would wear in my wardrobe. Like, it just doesn't make sense for my style, but I did think it was like a sick and cool, unique piece. And while there were a lot of like affordable pieces in Finders, that particular jacket coat I think was like $100 and something, but the person like stitched it and made it herself. And I think that's like, if anything, I think it's underpriced for what it was. It was really beautiful quality. It had pockets. It was really stunning. So shout out to Honey Jumbles, the Finders, that particular piece. It was very, very cool, and it was like a really cool place to go to in Tassie. I also tried on this like vintage like crocheted jumper that I thought was really funky. Again, it was like cool, but I was like, I don't think I would actually like wear this, but it was like very funky, like very cool. And with that, that was the last thrift slash secondhand store we visited in Tasmania. That was all of them. If you've been following along, you might be thinking, Lucy, did you get anything? No, I didn't. Hey, I didn't say this was a haul video. I really like the experience of thrift shopping, and when I find some good things, I will get them. But I'm also like super picky, and if something's not right, if it's not perfect, I don't want to bring it into my closet, because I know that eventually, because it's not right, I won't want it anymore. And it doesn't make sense for me to get something that I'm not totally obsessed with. But we did get that Loewe t-shirt, and Max got a 100% virgin merino wool sweater that's like a vintage Australian brand that are still around today, but like we hadn't heard of them. And it's very cool, and he wore it and he looked very dashing and handsome. Max is a very good thrifter. I'm very jealous of his like vintage slash like thrift collection. He just has some excellent pieces. What can I say? The BF has good taste. I'm his GF after all. I'm such a little rat. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little like chatty thrift store tour and you've vicariously thrifted and gotten some steals. Maybe you vicariously purchased some of the items that I didn't, because like maybe they're perfect for you. Let me know down below if I was a little silly dum-dum and didn't get something which I should have, or if I was a nice little conservative fashion rat, keeping my little rat coins close to my chest. I will be back soon with some more fashion, beauty, lifestyle content from your favorite internet rat woman. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the